At 82 years old, Paul McCartney remains one of the most iconic and influential figures in music history. As a founding member of the Beatles, McCartney's legacy is unparalleled. Over the decades, his life has been the subject of intense public scrutiny, filled with rumors, theories, and speculations. Now, as he reflects on his long and storied career, McCartney is finally addressing one of the most persistent topics that fans and critics alike have speculated about for years: the true extent of John Lennon's role in the breakup of the Beatles, and McCartney's own contribution to it. For decades, Paul McCartney has been painted in conflicting lights. To some, he was the driving force that held the Beatles together with his tireless work ethic and knack for melody. To others, he was seen as controlling, overly perfectionist, and perhaps the catalyst for the group's fracturing. McCartney himself has often avoided assigning blame directly, choosing diplomacy and reverence over candor. But in recent years, and especially now in his early 80s, he's become more open, more reflective, and more willing to share his side of the story, without filters. In various interviews and his 2021 book The Lyrics, McCartney began peeling back the layers of myth and nostalgia. The biggest revelation came during the release of Peter Jackson's The Beatles, Get Back documentary. The footage showed McCartney in a far more sympathetic light than previous narratives had allowed. Rather than forcing his will on the band, he appeared to be trying to hold it together. In interviews that followed, McCartney admitted what many had long suspected but was rarely said outright: it was John Lennon who first expressed the desire to leave the Beatles. John walked into a room one day and said, "I'm leaving the Beatles," McCartney said. "And that was it. It wasn't me." This admission, while not new to Beatles scholars, confirmed what many casual fans had long guessed: the band's breakup was inevitable, largely due to Lennon's changing interests and desire for independence. McCartney explained that the official announcement of the breakup came later, and for legal and business reasons, he became the face of the split, a role he never wanted. This is what fans had suspected for years, that McCartney had been unfairly blamed for ending the most beloved band in history. While he was often seen as the ambitious and business-savvy one, it was actually Lennon's decision that triggered the band's unraveling. McCartney's recent reflections don't place blame with malice, though. He remains affectionate when talking about Lennon, referring to him as a brother and an artistic partner who could be as difficult as he was brilliant. There was also another long-suspected truth that McCartney finally confirmed: the weight he carried in trying to keep the band together. In the final years of the Beatles, it was Paul who pushed for rehearsals, encouraged songwriting sessions, and attempted to rekindle the group's cohesion. Many saw this as bossiness at the time, but McCartney admitted that he felt desperate, not to control, but to save something beautiful from falling apart. The emotional honesty in his recent interviews reflects a man no longer trying to manage a public image but rather to simply tell his truth. He's acknowledged his own flaws too: his youthful arrogance, his drive that sometimes alienated his bandmates, and the emotional toll of being mischaracterized for decades. There's a quiet dignity in McCartney's confessions, a sense that with age has come a desire not for vindication, but for understanding. At 82, Paul McCartney has finally admitted what many suspected: he didn't break up the Beatles, and he spent years carrying the blame silently. His revelations are not about rewriting history, but about bringing clarity to a story that has shaped modern music. And for fans around the world, that truth, long overdue, means more than blame or exoneration. It humanizes a legend.